Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. I think you already know why we're here, so let's just get into it. Nenea is going to be keeping me company through this as a somewhat unaffected third party in all of this. So this week there was a leak via Amazon Canada that we were in fact getting modern era dolls of the original 6 historical girls who were released by Pleasant Company. And the reception has been mixed at best. A lot of people have already given their opinions about the dolls, the outfits, the modern interpretation of the different characters, and we will get to that. What I want to start with, however, is really talking about what is Mattel doing and why are collectors taking this so hard. And of course, these are just my thoughts and opinions based off of my own observations as a toy collector for multiple decades. Don't come for me, big bad corporations. So in essence, American Girl and Mattel at this point are attempting to recenter the brand around their target demographic, which is 6+. And as collectors, we're not part of that demographic, and that's okay. This release is for kids. So I want you to breathe a sigh of relief and realize a couple of things. One, this is a release for children. That means the adult releases are coming. American Girl is not going to miss an opportunity to take our money. That's just all there is to it. They know that collectors will pay top dollar for nostalgia, for the historical reproductions that we want, because those reproductions sell out every single time they're released. Currently, Samantha is sold out. Addy is sold out. Her Be Forever doll is still there, but those reproductions sell out. All the reproduction outfits sell out. American Girl is not going to miss their opportunity to take us for all we are willing to give them for our favorite historical girls. So please breathe a sigh of relief. Those releases are still coming. Mattel and American Girl at this point are trying to utilize the attention that they are getting for the 40th anniversary of American Girl to draw in new consumers. They're targeting this at 6+, but it's also the parents of those 6+. These are releases that are meant to bring little kids who, let's be honest, are influenced in a very different way than we were as kids. They're trying to bring those children in, get them excited about these dolls. That's all there is to it. So it's not something that we as collectors need to be upset about. This is, after all, a children's brand. We're fortunate that they do make releases for us every now and again. And believe me, those are coming. Okay, so the other thing is, I have seen this before. I've seen it before with Mattel. I've seen it before with other doll companies. I feel like I have a bit of an advantage as an altogether toy collector because I have seen these trends play out with other companies and other brands over the years. So let me explain. So back in 2020, there was a collector boom while everyone was in lockdown. It is widely known that that collector boom and all of the resurgence of American Girl interest on social media is largely what saved American Girl from closing its doors. So in essence, lockdown saved American Girl altogether. Mattel and MGA, along with some other smaller toy companies, really responded rapidly as much as they could to the influx of new collectors. Remember back in I think it was 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, American Girl used to release one collector doll. Maybe they would release 2 collector dolls with varying skin tones, but they were in the same outfit. When we get to 2023 and 2024, they're releasing, I think in 2023 they released 6 collector dolls, and there were similar numbers in 2024 as well. So Mattel was adjusting their manufacturing, their design, and production to cater to new adult collectors who were now in the market. But the collector bubble burst in 2023 and 2024. So if we look back to the production numbers for the collector doll in 2022, she was produced at a rate of, I think it was 17,000 dolls or 18,000 dolls, and she sold out before the holidays. After that, the dolls no longer sold out because they were producing so many for a market that was no longer there. Once lockdown lifted and people really felt comfortable getting back out into the world, people who started to collect for the sake of nostalgia and as a coping mechanism while they were in lockdown left the hobby largely. And there was no longer the market for all of these collector releases that American Girl and MGA were both making. So MGA is a private company where Mattel is a publicly traded company, and Mattel is always trying to make its stockholders happy. A lot of the expenses that we as consumers have incurred over about the last year or so have largely been to do with Mattel's attempt to cut their overall budget. That is happening at the same time as tariffs really hurting small businesses and large corporations alike. Those large corporations do have a wider profit margin in which they can move things around, but at the end of the day, it does end up affecting us as consumers. So that is a decision that Mattel has to make, whether or not they're going to eat those costs for the consumer. And for a while they did, and they no longer are at this point. Okay, so let's sidestep that and take a look over at MGA. And this is going to be very brief. This is just to go ahead and give you a little bit of history. MGA released Rainbow High in July of 2020, and it was rather high concept, and adult collectors flocked to that line. MGA then released Shadow High about a year or two later. They were releasing new dolls through Rainbow High and Shadow High almost every single month, and the prices continued to tick up substantially. Originally, the dolls were about $24, and then regularly they were releases that cost anywhere from $34 to $50. One collector doll was upwards of $100. Again, just taking advantage of the fact that there was an adult collector market who was willing to pay those prices at the time. So as those prices continued to go up, the collector market was slowly dissolving because the world was going back to normal a little bit. It was now 2023. So MGA decided to switch from partially catering to adult collectors to focusing solely on children.
Tell me you see it too.
So MGA actually changed the target age group for their Rainbow High dolls, I believe, to either 4+ or 6+ at that point. And there was a definite change in the dolls that they were making. They no longer had articulated wrists. The fashions were very simplified. The hairstyles were very simplified, and collectors were angry. But this was obviously MGA recentering their brand around their target demographic. When they released Rainbow High, it just happened to be during lockdown, and they saw that collectors flocked to it. They were able to increase their production, do higher and higher concept dolls until the people who were buying those dolls were no longer around. Because as a parent, are you going to go to Walmart to buy your child a $50 Rainbow High doll who comes with one outfit versus the dolls who originally were coming out with 2 outfits, accessories for $25? So what Mattel is doing right now is they're just responding to the loss of the collector market the same way that other toy companies did. They are slowly reducing the number of collector releases that they're doing, and they're recentering their products around their target demographic. So now let's talk about the modern era American Girl dolls. So the modern era American Girl dolls are all plastic, no soft body, and they have rooted hair. So it's basically like a large Barbie doll. And yes, a few years ago, Mattel did do a large Barbie doll. By that, I mean a 14-inch Barbie. So back in the day, you would have a My First Barbie, which Mattel doesn't do anymore. They made an attempt at a new version of the My First Barbie by making a 14-inch doll that was specifically designed for small hands developing their fine motor skills. That is exactly what they were doing with the modern era American Girl dolls as well. If you notice in these modern era dolls, the way that they interpreted all of the characters, they are geared towards hair play. Every single one has a very simplified hairstyle, which collectors have been very upset about. But that's because these dolls are designed to entice children into hair play. Hair play and grooming is a huge part of how humans and other primates socialize and bond. And that's seen in the way that children play with their toys. And even some of us as collectors, you bond through hair play. That's very, very common. So all of these dolls, whether it seems true to the character or not, have extremely long hair. Molly's hair is long and straight, and I want to play with it. I'm a big hair play person. I love hair play. When I was growing up, I had to learn how to do all of my own hairstyles, and then I would do it on my little friends and I would do it on my dolls, and that was a lot of fun. So I love hair play, and I just want to play with Molly's hair. The rest of her design I could do without, but we'll get there. So these modern era dolls are designed with hair play in mind. These are specifically targeting small children. Additionally, all of them have very simplified fashions, which are also meant to appeal to small children who are still developing their fine motor skills. That's the basis behind these dolls. Just to recap, American Girl is still recovering from the loss of the collector market after the end of lockdown. They are using the 40th anniversary to recenter the brand as a whole towards their target demographic, which is 6+. These dolls are very simplified, and it's for the reason of appealing to particularly small children. While the packages do say 8+, we do know that in reality, these are going to be purchased for 4, 5, and 6-year-olds. We already see that with the 18-inch dolls. So an 8+ advisory on there is not going to prevent parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, whomever from buying these for the young child in their life. What I think we should be focused on as collectors is that American Girl is centering the historical brand. That's really important. So let's talk about it. So I like to look at the fact that they are doing these modern era dolls as it's like American Girl recommitting themselves to the historical line. If they're trying to use simplified versions of the core 6 dolls to bring in a younger audience, that's a really good thing, because that means that if they get those kids interested in the original 6 girls, that they're going to continue to make more and more products for the original 6 historical girls. That should be an exciting thing for us. Additionally, I believe that the way that American Girl is going to be utilizing these modern era dolls is to get kids interested in the historical line in totality. So they'll go from the 14.5-inch dolls and then graduate up to an 18-inch historical doll. Again, that means that we will be getting more historical items. If you take a look at what's in stock on American Girl right now for the historical line, it's pretty bleak. Addy only has her Be Forever doll. Samantha's re-release is completely sold out. It's mainly the newer historical girls who are in stock, but I want you to notice something about Nenea, Mary Ellen, and Julie. All of those dolls came with an updated diary or journal with their newest releases last year. When Samantha was re-released, she was re-released with a keepsake edition of her Samantha's World book. I think this is going to be the standard moving forward. Why? It's this girl. Felicity's appearance in this modern era American Girl line is what makes me believe that we are going to be getting a whole new approach to the 18-inch historical dolls. American Girl has for a long time, parted ways with Felicity. We got the Felicity tumbler, we got the Felicity stickers, we got the Felicity patch, and the different Stony Clover releases all around the 35th anniversary. But other than that, it's been pretty hush-hush for Miss Felicity, because unfortunately, starting with Pleasant Company, no one ever bothered to address the realities of Felicity's world. And I think that's what is going to take place with her re-release. Again, with Samantha's re-release last year, she came with a keepsake version of her Samantha's World book that was made available. And I think that they are going to do this with all of the dolls to include Felicity. And that will be how Mattel finally approaches the unsavory aspects of Felicity's world without having to go back and completely retcon her books. I think it's going to be either that, or they'll do the diaries and journals like they did for Nenea, Julie, and Mary Ellen. So it's going to be one or the other. Either they're going to take the opportunity to do a personalized view of Felicity's world through her own eyes and give her a diary or journal, or they will do a more in-depth version of her Felicity's World book to really explore the ideas that were left out of Felicity's books, which really comes down to the depiction of slavery and the treatment of enslaved Black persons and Black persons in the community of Williamsburg in 1774. And for those of you who might still be upset about the idea of American Girl making products for a younger demographic that deviates so heavily from the original historical dolls, I say to you 2 words: Bitty Baby. Bitty Baby was released back under Pleasant Company, and Bitty Baby is completely antithetical to Pleasant Company's mission statement. According to Pleasant Rowland, Pleasant Company was founded because she wanted to give girls an opportunity to, 1, be centered in history, but 2, involve children in mimetic storytelling where they actually get to play out scenes using historical objects, but at a 1/3 scale, playing out the scenes with these beautiful historical dolls that are supposed to be historically accurate. They're not always, but watch my deep dive videos for that. So, Bitty Baby was not educational in the historical sense and completely deviated from Pleasant's mission statement that she wanted to create a doll that reflected girls as they are and not a doll that was either, a teen role model or someone to play mommy. She made a doll to play mommy. Okay, so remember, this has been done before, and it was done under Pleasant Company. When Pleasant Company was started, it was supposed to be for ages 6+, but you can actually find handwritten alterations on, I think it was on some of the pamphlets, were hand-marked edits changing the 6+ to 8+. So for Pleasant to be able to hit that lower age demographic and expand her audience for her company, she made Bitty Baby. She made a doll at playing mommy when she said that that was what she was trying to avoid in creating Pleasant Company. She said that she wanted to give girls a friend and someone that would represent them and their struggles, not someone to play mommy. So this is not new. I feel like collectors are getting very upset about the fact that, like Pleasant Company wouldn't have done this. Pleasant Company did this, and they did it 30 years ago, and Bitty Baby's still around, and so are the 18-inch dolls. I would say just breathe a sigh of relief, and let's be thankful that, 1, we're getting little kids excited about the historical line. I think that's awesome. The fact that we're doing anything to get kids excited about these historical dolls, I think is great. And again, if kids are excited, it is rooting a new audience for these dolls, which is so cool because it means that this brand can live on. It's not just us adults, clawing at Mattel, asking them, begging them, pleading with them to make things for the historical line. If a younger demographic wants it, they're going to make it. That younger demographic is the one that they really count on. So if they can root an interest in the historical line and a younger audience, that's fantastic. Also, how many of us were inspired by the stories of these girls? Why do we still hang around? Because we love them. We love their worlds. We love their stories. So this is exciting. Here's the other thing. American Girl and Mattel, they're going to milk us for all of our money. If you think that this is the big 40th anniversary release, no, this is not the big release for the year. This is the same company who likes to do little sneaky drops all year long. Do you think that's going to change for the 40th anniversary? I'm just excited to see what they're going to be doing. So I would just say sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. There's going to be some fun stuff coming our way. I assure you. Okay. Now that all of that is out of the way, let's get to the dolls. Okay, so first up, let's talk Kirsten. Firstly, I want to say that I am happy with the dolls for what they're doing. Okay, but I will now say essentially my highs and lows of their designs. For Kirsten, we have the simple dress that's based off of the patterns from her original meat dress. I like the embroidery on her little Peter Pan collar. I think that's very sweet. I like that we see some of the details tied in from the original pattern of her dress. But the space buns, like the space buns, the space buns to me scream gamer. They scream e-girl. They do not scream I sell organic, locally sourced honey with my mom at the street fair. I think this whole release would have been a wonderful opportunity for American Girl to portray the historical characters as modern versions of their characters. And that should be reflected in their fashion. It should be reflected in their hairstyles and everything else, and in their accessories. I think the heart-shaped purse with the KL is a great detail because that does hint at her spoon bag, which was, her little accessory prop. I like that because her spoon bag is how she would have carried things around. So giving her a heart-shaped purse, I think, is very cute and appropriate. Something that I want to note as far as the quality is that the purse actually has a zipper, which is a step up. The accessory set, actually, I have it right here. American Girl released this little purse last year, and it doesn't even have a zipper. So I think it's a step in the right direction that they actually added a zipper. That might sound really infinitesimal, but it counts. It's a step in the right direction. I like that we got Kirsten's red boots from her summer story. I think that's very cute. Very nice little nod to her. I know a lot of people are upset about the bangs. I don't see kids with bangs very often anymore, so I think it's fine. I get that it's upsetting for a lot of people because they're looking at the dolls like, oh, this is supposed to be an updated version of, my original historical girly, where are her bangs? I'm thinking about it from the perspective of, given Kirsten's family structure, given their the economic troubles even that they dealt with, what makes sense for her? I think this outfit makes sense. I think long hair without bangs makes sense. I just don't think the space buns do. The space buns do not scream Kirsten. I know that it's supposed to be a nod to her braid loopies, but the braid loopies are actually rooted in Swedish tradition, and these space buns are like, they're just very Mattel. For some reason, over the last 5 years, Mattel has been obsessed with space buns on dolls. Like, just look at the Barbie line and you will see so many space buns. MGA, same thing. Space buns everywhere. For me, the hairstyle is a miss. The other thing is, I don't see girls in dresses like this. I don't actually think any of the fashions really represent modern children's fashion very well. Like, these don't say 2026 to me. There's only one outfit to me that looks like a 2026 outfit, and the rest just, they're kind of a hodgepodge of fashions from the last 25, 30 years, but there isn't anything that really stands out as, yep, this is 2026, which is disappointing. But again, they're simple fashions for tiny hands, and that's okay. All right, next up is Samantha. Samantha, her whole look, I think, is the most cohesive. However, they have her in pink again, just like they did for the Be Forever collection. Once again, I feel like this is a missed opportunity to dress Samantha how Samantha would want to be dressed in 2026. I think she would have looked really cute in either some tailored jeans or like some Old Navy Gap style pixie pants, like the little tailored pants, and then put those in a cute color like the burgundy from her meat dress, or in like the blue of her play dress. I think that would have been really cute. And then a nice top that again is age appropriate, because these dolls are supposed to be somewhere between 6 and 10. if we're going off of the old Welly Wisher thing, then they're approximately 6 years old. If these are supposed to be just scaled down versions of the girls when we meet them in their meet book, then they're 10 years old. So there's a lot of room for interpretation there, but this outfit just looks like a recycled Janie and Jack outfit. It's not inspired in the least. I do think it's the closest we have to something that looks like a child's outfit from 2026. However, we need leggings or tights or something, because when I do see children dressed in these fashions, it's not with bare legs. It is with either leggings or tights. I do, however, really like her hairstyle, and let me explain. For Kirsten, I think her long hair without any additional like styling that you would need to upkeep at a salon makes sense. So her not having pie bangs makes sense to me. However, with Samantha, I think the pie bangs make a lot of sense. If you have a hairstyle that needs any amount of upkeep, it means you're going to the salon, or you have a hairstylist in the family, or you, like myself, are very brave in styling your own hair. I cut my own hair for like 8 years or something like that. But with Samantha coming from a wealthier family, it makes sense that she would have a hairstyle that would require maintenance. So I think the bangs actually match that very well. All right, on to the next doll. So next is Molly. Molly is just all over the place. Molly, in my opinion, is kind of a hot mess. She does have the extremely long, very playable hair that I was talking about earlier that is obviously meant to entice children into hair play. I know a lot of people are disappointed in the fact that she only has one small braid off to the side rather than her two iconic braids, but again, I it's a modern interpretation and these dolls are meant for hair play, whether the box says it or not. A lot of people have been commenting that it's Julie's hairstyle. It's Julie's hairstyle. It's Grace Thomas's hairstyle. I saw another doll recently with the same braid. So yeah, it's not any one doll. This is just a hairstyle that the designers over at American Girl really like for some reason, and we're just stuck with that. So Mattel tends to get stuck on particular hairstyles, and this is one of them. So Molly's outfit just doesn't make any sense to me. Molly as a character, would she want to be in a skirt? No. Like, if it were up to me, I would put Molly in probably athleisure or sweats or something, like something to show that she is a little bit more active, a little bit more rough and tumble. She's not a skirt girly. I think it doesn't make any sense to me that basically Mattel and American Girl perpetuated the fashions that were forced upon these girls because of their family's preferences and their society's preferences, rather than allowing the girls to express their individuality. And that's what I feel like is missing from the collection. I feel like American Girl and Mattel should have given these girls the opportunity to express their individuality through their fashion for the first time, because that wasn't allowed in their prior circumstances. This beret, I don't see kids in berets. It doesn't make any sense to me. The material is like a heathered material and isn't actually very attractive. It looks kind of weathered and doesn't go well with her sweater, in my opinion. And then the skirt or skort or whatever it is, again, it's too short and it doesn't read Molly at all to me. Her platform shoes seem like they're just recycling a mold from the AG sisters, or maybe they scaled down the shoes that they did like this for the American Girl dolls a couple years ago. They don't read as Molly at all to me. So for me, her whole look is pretty disappointing. And also, as a gray-eyed girly, I am disappointed that her eyes read more as light blue than they do as actually being gray. I really love that I have some gray-eyed representation in Molly, and it's just not the case anymore. So if you, like, I zoomed in on these photos, her eyes are blue. They're light blue, but they're blue. Also, all of these girls look a little scared. I think Samantha has been a lot of people's favorites because, one, she does have the pie bangs, which is nostalgic and comforting and everything, but also everyone else has these really hard, visible eyebrows, which are just unsettling to see on a doll that is meant to represent a child. Most children do not have very thick, full brows. I feel like the shape and the level of opacity on the eyebrows is really a miss. They should have softened them, given them more of a feathered brow to make them seem more approachable. Additionally, the eye mold doesn't, for me, it doesn't work because since they don't have the sleepy eyes and they don't have the lashes to create more of a shadow and a natural expression on the face, the girls all just look shocked and it's unsettling. So I think they need to go back to the drawing board on that. A lot of it I think could be fixed if they just gave the girls proper lashes, but that isn't what they did. So next up is Josefina. Josefina, I think, is an adorable doll. I love her face mold. I know it's a little bit unsettling, the photo of her in the box. It's simply just because she has her head tilted down, because they do have the 5 basic points of articulation with the head, I believe, on a ball joint. And with her head tilted down, she just looks a little too snatched, in my opinion. But I think they did a really great job scaling down the Josefina mold, and I do think she's a very, very beautiful doll. I like the approach that they took in modernizing her outfit. I, again, would just appreciate if they gave her a longer skirt. One of the reasons I keep harping on the length of these skirts is, again, because they don't seem realistic for children. But additionally, I think Mattel is just kind of cheaping out at the materials. They're not creating high enough quality outfits for these dolls. Every inch of fabric that they cut off is however much money saved for Mattel. They can stretch that dollar that much further. They can stretch that yard of fabric that much further. I think all of these smaller, less complicated pieces of clothing are also centered in this release because Mattel can just make more money that way. If it takes less time for them to create a piece of doll clothing, it's time and money saved. All in all, I do think Josefina looks absolutely adorable. Okay, next up is Addy. Addy, you know, is near and dear to my heart. So this is, I think, a really cool release. I love the way that the Addy sculpt came out in this scale. I think she's really beautiful. I love the edging that they gave her. Like, all the little baby hairs are just beautiful. I love that American Girl is actively including baby hairs now on some of their dolls of color. So we saw that first with the super long haired doll that they released last year with the updated Sonali mold, and now we have it here on Little Miss Addy. So that's very exciting. I like the twist in her hair. That's very cute. And the dress is actually much more on point with children's clothes that I've seen out in the wild. This is a pretty standard dress for a little girl. The thing that I would have added if I was on the team is I'd have pockets. Most girls in women's fashions nowadays have pockets. That's one of the biggest trends that has been completely ignored, I feel like, by American Girl. They've had some rompers that they've released that have pockets, but these dresses, especially dresses for little girls, should have little pockets that they can stick their hands in. I would have liked it if they gave her little side pockets that she could stuff her hands into. So I think that would have been a really nice touch. I understand to a degree the inclusion of the 2 patterns on her dress. However, I'm not a fan. To me, it's just too visually busy. I think it would have been nice if maybe there was like a little bit, if maybe the blue was used as trim somewhere. But that being said, I know some people in the community really do like it. So if you like it, I am happy for you. It's not for me. And lastly, we have Felicity. Felicity. So let's talk about it. Felicity, I actually think, is the best modern interpretation in the line. They chose her clothes very carefully. I'm still reading through her books for the deep dive series that I'm doing on her. And so far, from what I've read, she's not my favorite character. That being said, I think they did the best job at modernizing her. The fact that she has pants is just like, yes, this is what they should have been doing with all of the girls. All of the girls should have been given the opportunity to dress like they themselves would want to be dressed, not the way that their parents would dress them. Like, Sam is not dressed the way that Sam would want to be dressed. Molly, not dressed the way that Molly would want to be dressed. Why are they dressed like this? But Felicity, on the other hand, is dressed the way that a modern Felicity would want to be dressed. She's wearing pants. She has her whole little monologue in both the first book and her 2005 film about how difficult it is being a girl and how she would like to wear breeches. So I think this is really, really well done. I like her little purse with the horse charm on it. I like that we have a nod to her original meat outfit and not her two other meat outfits. I like the ribbon to mimic corseting, which of course in 1774 Felicity would have been wearing a corset. It was available through Pleasant Company. So yeah, I think that this is what should have been done with all of the dolls. I think all of the dolls should have had the opportunity to dress the way that they want to dress as individuals. I think Felicity holistically is the best modern era interpretation of the historical girls. And that breaks my heart to say because, again, she is not my favorite of the historical characters. And she has a very problematic history. But it's also her inclusion in this line that leads me to believe that Mattel is going to start centering the historical line as the lifeblood of American Girl once again. I think that this release is incredibly exciting. So I haven't made up my mind about whether or not I'm going to get any of these girls. I think they'd be great stand-ins for a lot of the little sisters in the books. And I'm curious to see what Mattel does with this doll line going forward. As of now, there's no indication that these dolls are limited edition. There's nothing on the packaging or on the website that indicates that these are limited edition or specifically for the 40th anniversary, just that this is the modern era line. So we'll see what happens. I'm not in a rush. I'm going to see what the release is like, and the release could potentially determine whether or not this is a limited release. So we'll see. The dolls come out on May 1st. They are $90 each. I would say that is the one thing that I am disappointed in with the release, other than, like I said, some of the fashions, but whatever. They're made for little kids. It's fine. But I am disappointed in the price point. These are dolls with the 5 basic points of articulation. They have rooted hair, not wigs, and very simplified fashions with a couple accessories, and they're $90. It doesn't make any sense. I was talking to a friend and they were saying that, I said they're less expensive, which I think could help entice parents into getting them for their child as a way into American Girl that's a little less expensive. And my friend said, well, they're not that much less expensive. And I brought up to them that, well, pricing doesn't really have anything to do with reality. It has a lot to do with psychology. Like, something ending in 99 or 95 vastly increases the likelihood of someone buying something. Like, if something's $19.99 or it's $20 flat, psychologically people are enticed by the fact that the price point is under that round number. It's under $20. It's $19.99. Pricing doesn't really have much to do with actual factual worth. It has to do with psychology. And if at $90 these dolls are less expensive than $135 Truly Me or $150 historical doll, they're less expensive. But are they worth it? I don't think so. There's nothing to me that indicates that these dolls are worth $90. The one thing that I haven't seen anyone discuss yet is the cost of packaging. Packaging a lot of times is one of the most expensive parts of actually putting a toy on shelves. Display level packaging vastly increases the price of a product. So where traditionally we have just simple cardboard boxes for our American Girl dolls, these have a full window display. And what that means is that essentially they have to produce a different type of box. But then there's also the box art on the back, which already has its own well-deserved controversies. They also have to tie in the doll in a way that makes them look presentable, that makes the consumer either want to buy the doll or buy the doll and keep it in box to have it on display. So the display worthiness of these dolls is also being calculated into how they're being presented, and that ups the cost as well. So I don't think it should up the cost $25 from what a Welly Wisher used to cost. But I do think that's part of the price increase. And personally, I would rather have a doll with more simplified packaging and a lower price point. So, but that's me. I don't know. You tell me your thoughts. I want to hear everything. Please tell me all the things. Tell me what you're thinking. I've been talking with people about this for a couple days now, and I asked you guys if you wanted me to make a video because I had a lot of thoughts, and boy did I. So anyway, thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today. Please let me know all of your thoughts on these dolls, and let's have a chat down in the comments. As always, just make sure to keep it nice and simple as you always do, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.